Alright, so I just want to do a quick run through of how to solve problems using the sides. So the properties of sides in a rectangle. So half of this assignment that you have is just usually using these side properties to solve it. So this is number 1 from the filled in notes that we're just going to run through together. That way you can see how it's kind of worked out and how the rest of the problems kind of follow the same type of structure. So in this one, they tell you that this top one is 24. Remember that if it's a rectangle, the sides opposite are congruent. So this one would be 24 as well. And also, since this side right here is 10, it means that this side over here opposite is also going to be 10. Now, the other thing to remember that if you're dealing with a rectangle, all of these angles are right angles. So if you want, what you can do is you can focus on, since we knew this is 24 and this is 10, what we can do is we can focus just on this right triangle right here. So if we're looking at this right triangle, this leg is 10, this leg is 24. Remember that this is the hypotenuse because it's opposite of this right angle. This is the angle that we're using in this triangle. This is the right angle. This is the hypotenuse. So we can use the Pythagorean theorem to solve it. So we can say that this PQ squared plus PS squared, so we'd say like 24 squared plus 10 squared has to be equal to SQ squared. So then if we have that, we can use this and solve for the length of S to Q by using this Pythagorean theorem. 24 squared plus 10 squared is going to come out to 676. You can just use a calculator to figure that out. And this is still equal to SQ squared. So remember that whenever you're trying to get rid of a square, you have to square root to get rid of it. So that's what we're going to do, is to figure out what SQ is. We're going to do the square root of 676. All right? Square root of 676 comes out to 26. So that means that the length of SQ is 26. So if S to Q is 26, that means that P to R is also 26. Also keep in mind that one of the important features of a rectangle are that the diagonals are congruent and they bisect each other. So all 4 of these sides, so these two are the same and these two are the same, and they're all the same to each other. So we just figured out that S to Q is 26. So that means that each of these are going to be 13. And you should notice here that we have the length of every single piece of line in this diagram. So this is pretty much all you really need to remember about rectangles. You can rewatch this video as many times as you need to kind of understand the process of it. It's really just understanding opposite sides are congruent, diagonals are bisected, so all 4 of these parts are actually congruent because the diagonals are also the same length. So again, diagonals are the same length and they're bisected, so each 4 partial diagonal is the same. And then you're using the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what the whole diagonal is, or if they tell you what a diagonal is in one side, you can use the Pythagorean theorem to figure out what the length of the other side is, so on and so forth.